morning to you, and thanks a lot for spending your beautiful morning to join the show and share your stories to our global audience. And on behalf of the listeners around the world, I want to say thank you.
You're welcome. It's great to be here.
And I'm excited to see you in June. I'm so excited to look and looking forward to it. Okay?
Yes, me too.
So let us know if anything that we can have in preparation for that trip. We would love to, to be a service to you. So let us know. And and just to have a little preparation for you about our culture here. It's very honor for our audience to hear a little introduction of who you are and the work that you are doing by you. So would you please do that and honor for us?
Yeah, sure. Why don't I start with my book, The Call of Antarctica? And you had asked me, well, how did I start this journey? My father went to Antarctica, before he had a family. So it was kind of like, oh, Dad, you went to Antarctica. I didn't really listen. I wasn't that interested. It seemed like it was so far away and long ago. But then I realized that every time he gave a presentation, he would talk about Antarctica, and people would kind of tease him. Well, George Gibbs is speaking tonight. I wonder what he's going to speak on. Wink, wink. And he always talked about it. And then he wanted to write a book, and he never got on the book, and I kept, asking him to do it and maybe helping him and giving him, some writing tips. But he always said I didn't have enough information, or I don't have enough information. And I thought that was kind of strange. Well, he passed away, and I found out that he had commissioned an author to help him write the story, and she gave everything back to me because she was starting a family. So then everything came back to me, and I thought, oh, wow, what's a lot of responsibility. I don't know anything about Antarctica. I don't know anything about, my father's early life. He was 22, 23 when he took this expedition. So I just started to become interested, and what really was the motivation was my mother found his diaries behind the dresser when she moved. So he passed away, and in about 3 months she sold the house. And when she was moving the furniture, she found his diaries.
Oh.
She sent me the diaries, and I read the diaries in a weekend, and they were amazing. He wrote every day for 6 months on that first trip, just little paragraphs. And, he had just a strong voice and a strong point of view, and I really understood what his experiences were. And so I thought, okay, this probably needs to be a film or a book or something. So I had a 20-year journey with this material because I didn't want to be a starving artist, and it just took all my time because I didn't know anything. So I kind of went in and out and wrote some and researched a lot, put it down, was very frustrated. I didn't think anyone would even care about the story. So, fast forward now, I'm actually consider myself a science communicator as well as an executive coach. And I learned a lot about leadership from this expedition. These men, 59 men, stayed on the ice for a year. And so my father's job, there was about 60 crew with 2 ships, and his job was to be to help the scientists get settled in their environment on the ice. So he helped build the bases where they stayed and lived for 1 year. Wow. So it was two round trips on an old wooden ship from Boston down to Little America, 3 with Admiral Byrd, Admiral Richard E. Byrd, which is a famous explorer. Uh-huh. So they sailed around, they built these bases, and they went home. They stayed home for 4 months, and then they went back down on this wooden ship to rescue the scientists.
Leilani, you say that it took you 20 years back and forth with the diaries before you published the book, right? So,
Yes.
so let's travel time. Let's travel time way further than that, okay? Because the way that you share your life story with a lot of achievements, a lot of accomplishment that you have, and it only like the only less than 2 minutes of your time is not fair for our audience. So, how travel time sounds to you?
Say that again. How what?
How does travel time sounds to you? How is it to you? You like it? You like to travel time with me?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
All righty, okay. Because we're gonna travel to when we were really young. Okay, so when I was little, I live in a very poor community, and every day, one day that we have electricity, so the next day or two we're not gonna have anything. So the only thing for me to entertain is empty, like space next to our house, and in the day that they have the moon, right? So it's very beautiful. So my first dream about the thing that I'm gonna do in the future is to maybe become an astronaut, traveling onto the moon, and maybe it's brighter up there, and it's more beautiful up there, right? But life did not give me any opportunity to do things that I wanted to do and the dream that I always wanted to do as a young age, except that I've been interviewed an astronaut that who went to the moon, and I've been interviewed a lot of people from NASA, a lot of people in the science field through this journey. So, Leilani, I want to bring you back into when you were little. What was the condition of your life, and what was your first dream about the future works that Leilani gonna offer to this world?
Wow, that's very interesting. Some of my first memories in Minneapolis. So I was born in Hawaii, and it was kind of a cosmic joke to be raised in Minnesota. We're having snow now. I'm in Colorado right now, so we're having snow. So this is a great morning. But we lived in a university setting with different people from all over the world. And so I studied German when I was 6. So I had an opportunity to see, to have people from India and people from China and people from Bulgaria that were all our neighbors. So I always dreamed to be something like maybe at the UN, some sort of ambassador or diplomat. And then in 6th grade, when I was about 12, my father enrolled me in Toastmasters. I think Toastmasters is international.
Yes.
And we had Toastmasters for children. And so, he kind of enrolled me in this, and I had to become, a leader and a speaker early on.
Wow.
So those were some of the things. And then I wanted to be a psychologist a few years after that. So in a way, I've combined, because I've traveled the world and I have people and contacts and friends from all over the world. I'm glad I didn't work at the UN, because I think there's a lot of work that the UN needs. I did go there, and I did have an opportunity to find out what was happening there, and decided that wasn't for me, because I'm not a politician. But the spirit of leadership and international communication was an early dream for me.
Beautiful. So what happened at 6 years old that you live in the community at the university with a lot of people around you from different countries, different cultures? What brought to that privilege, Leilani?
Oh, my father was in college. So, he was in the Navy for 24 years. And then when he got out, he decided to move to Minnesota and started, he was in college there.
Wow.
So, we were little while he was in college, and that was our neighborhood.
Wow. Then you carry that dream ever since until now. Travel the world, meet a lot of amazing people, right? Well,
Yes.
earlier you mentioned about psychology, and you said that you want to become a psychologist. At that age, at 12, you could imagine the world totally differently. You could be an engineer, architect, you could be an astronaut, or like sales marketer, or whatever, right? Why psychology?
I always wondered what makes people tick.
Ah.
And I always looked at the differences that people brought. I always wanted people to feel safe when they communicated. And I always noticed when people were included or when they maybe just sat there and didn't say anything and then everyone else was talking. So I always wondered what would it take to get everybody, everybody's voice in the room, and then what made some people, sit back, and what made some people, talk all the time. So those were some of the things that made me curious. I also had an amazing teacher in 8th grade, that, about 14 or so, and he was a psychologist. And so he was instrumental in me thinking about this as a field. And then I had another amazing professor in college, and started doing research, so psychological research, and doing experiments, and measuring the brain, and so forth. So that continued my excitement about what we can learn about human beings.
Wow. So that little girl's dream had carried for years onto university. So it's starting to make the dream come true, right? And it actually came true. So when you move into the career world, and tell us, from academia onto a workplace, was there any hiccups for you? Was there any difference from what you learned compared to what happened in reality for that Leilani to face with at early age?
Well, I have to say that things were pretty smooth for me. The one hiccup, though, was I was very comfortable. I went to a historically Black college, Spelman College. It's pretty famous because Martin Luther King was at the school next door, Morehouse College. So Spelman and Morehouse has an international reputation, and so it was fun to be there. It was fun to be there because growing up in Minnesota, I was one of only African American girls in the city, so I wanted to go and experience not being a minority, if you will. But the hiccup for me was leaving college. I'm not sure. I didn't know what to do. A lot of my friends went on to get their masters. They went on to corporations, and I didn't find my path right away. And for some reason, I don't remember anybody helping me decide, well, what do you do after college? So I just sort of sat there. And I ended up living with my aunt for a couple of years, and kind of finding my path. And I think part of what was interesting is that I already was wanting to do a number of different things at once. So my brother, for example, is a musician. He always wanted to be pretty much a musician. So I didn't have that. I was interested in natural healing. I was interested in community psychology and drug abuse counseling. I was interested in speech pathology. So I couldn't really pick one thing, and therefore I didn't pick anything.
You have a handful of things on your hand, and it's hard to make a decision, right? So how did the final decision reach?
So what happens, my life is full of synchronicities. And that's part of what I teach for leadership, is to be able to receive the signals that you're getting from the environment. So my first job was in a natural healing institute. and I ran the bookstore. So I learned customer service, and I also learned about natural healing. And from there, I went, I was an environmental educator, and I developed an after-school program for children, and we did gardening and things like that, and foraging, and looked at weeds and how you could eat edible weeds. So that was the early environmental interest. And then, you know, from there, fast forward a little bit, you know, then I got my master's degree in organizational development and psychology. And I always wanted to do something in the environment. And then I think that's why the Call of Antarctica was, the call was there. It just took a while.
My wife and I, we went on to a mountain, and we lost the signal, right? So we keep walking, and say, okay, keep the phone open so that when we have the signal, we can call and do the GPS. So on your case, it's the same. You have so many things to do. It's like, you know, you have to open the antenna to get the signal to when it's gonna come into the North Star that you wanna head onto, right? So beautiful. And you went on to a career in the corporate life for years, and we want to know, you know, like at a certain point, you decided to leave a comfortability of living in a corporate world where, you know, you got a good paycheck every month, the insurance and everything, the thing that holding people, you know, from living and pursuing their dreams, right? So I want to bring you to that moment of making a big decision to start on your own journey. On that, maybe morning, afternoon, or evening, what did you do? Where were you? And what was in your head?
Yes. Well, there are a couple of moments, actually. The first one was after graduate school, I was in the aerospace business. I was at Lockheed Martin, and that was an amazing opportunity to learn the organizational development skills and have an amazing team. And what I realized is I didn't want to work in the aerospace, you know, making bombs and bullets. I mean, we were making parts for rockets, which was very interesting. The whole organization, though, you know, was a military complex. And so that's when I started to realize that it was important to align my values with what my work. And I was fortunate enough to find a recruiter who recruited me into a creative industry. And I was in the cable telecommunication industry for some years after that. And then I decided that it was time, because in that position, I was doing a lot of creative work. And I was nervous because I had to produce, but nobody was telling me how to be creative. I didn't really know how to be creative. And so I taught myself some of those principles. And I know some of the videos, the people that you interviewed last year talked about the creative process, and that it's a skill as well as a talent. So I went on the skill part, like, oh, okay, this is a skill, I can develop it. So once I had a lot of creativity under my belt, then I realized, okay, this is me, and I can go out and do this myself, because no one is really helping me be creative. So that was the moment when I decided to leave and start my own business.
Wow. Who did you get consultation from, and what did they say when they hear you know, from what you asked them for?
Well, you know, I mean, a lot of people, again, I think this was in your interview too, of you know, you need to have income, you need to have a job, you know, who are going to be your customers. So there wasn't anybody saying, oh yeah, that's a great idea. So I just decided to take the leap.
Wow.
And that was, yeah, my own inner knowing that the leap was important. And once I took that leap, I right away got a contract with an organization, and that was helpful to have one, you know, just one contract.
Sometimes all it takes is just, you know, one contract from 0 to 1 and it start everything, right? Bring me to that moment, a cheerful moment of you having that first client of yours. So how did you feel?
So amazing, so relieved. I was able to buy a car and really start, you know, start my business. And the other thing I realized I didn't know about myself, but the problem solving aspect, the client was software engineers. And they said, well, we have tried everything. So can you help us? And so I realized that I like that challenge of, you know, let's try something that hasn't been done before. You know, let's stretch our comfort zone and do something that maybe is a little edgy, but you've tried everything. So why not try something that's a little different? So that became my kind of my North Star, is realizing that I could help shake things up. And, you know, you've tried everything, so you might as well try this.
You see, now things start to connect. All the dots start to connect. Your father, you know, left this the city, go to Antarctica, right, for exploration and onto expedition. Try to do something that you know, out of normal things that people tend to do, right? So
yes,
it's in your DNA also, like that.
It is. It definitely is. And he, you know, part of his story was he didn't know what to do. And so when he re-enlisted after the 89th day, he had one more day to re-enlist. And he went in and said, well, I'd like to go to Spain. You know, I'll re-enlist if you can send me to Spain. And they say, well, we don't do that. We're not going to Spain, but you could volunteer to go to Antarctica. And he's like, okay.
Wow.
He didn't know anything about Antarctica.
So at which year did your mother find out about his diary?
This was 2001.
2001.
So he passed away on his birthday, November 7th, 2000.
Oh.
And then that January of 2001 is when she found the diaries.
Wow. And then, yes. And then she gave it to you, but why didn't she give it to your brother?
Oh, well, that's a great question. Well, I had already met with the potential author. Yeah, Mary Devine, in St. Paul, Minnesota. She was going to be the author. So I had already met with her. And at the time I was living in Minnesota, and my brother was living in Connecticut. So that's the other reason, is that I was there.
It was there, right? 20 years. Holding on to that for 20 years before you published that beautiful book, right? What took so long?
Well, I can just show you that, you know, there's a lot of research that was, yeah. So it wasn't that I was holding on. The book is not the diaries. We didn't publish the diaries. What I ended up doing was finding an educational publisher that wanted to put a little bit of history, a little bit of climate, a little bit of the Antarctic Treaty, a little bit of the expedition that he was on and the famous explorers. So it became almost an anthem of Antarctica. And I had to, because I didn't know anything, I started from the beginning. And so, and the diaries, there's a lot of information in the diaries left off. You know, they were working 14 hours a day. So the fact that he wrote every day one paragraph is amazing. And I had to fill in the blanks.
Wow.
The other interesting piece is that it turned out that this was a secret mission. So I would read books, and that the third expedition was left off.
Oh.
And I didn't understand why I couldn't find anything about this expedition. And it was years later when I found out that it was a a classified mission.
Wow. But see, for each paragraph, you don't have enough information. You did not have enough information. Then the creative part of you kicks in. You start from nothing, from little thing, and then and put all the puzzle together, and went out find the publishers to put here and there onto the book and make a beautiful book. So we create something good from almost nothing. And that is the mind of a creator. Leilani, you need to teach us, where did you come up with that mindset, being the creator of your life, being creator of something that on your hands? Because a lot of people have so many things on their place, but they are not able to do anything with that. And that, we need to learn from your secret.
I never thought of it that way.
Makes sense
I've
to
always
you?
been, it does make sense though. Yeah. I think, just being curious. It was actually hard for me to write because I was just curious and doing all the research and find, oh, this happened and connecting the dots. So there's this excitement about connecting the dots that I have. And it was fun. And then, having to sit down and actually write what I was thinking and feeling was more difficult. I think the other thing that I did was I surrounded myself by people who were writing and were creating. And so we would bounce ideas off of each other, and that the power of community. My partner, Henry Bergeson, is a kaleidoscope maker. And he's a world-class, award-winning designer. Wow. And so that also rubs off on me because I see him create almost at the drop of a hat. And I was learning from him, like, how do you just be comfortable and not be scared to bring something to form? And as a mechanical engineer, he has different skills. I definitely learned something from that.
Wow. And you mentioned about the book that have you to see and build the trust, from the people around us, from at works and in life, right? Yeah. Tell us about that, please, Leilani.
Okay, there was a little. You went away for a second. Maybe I went away.
All right, sorry
about that. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yeah, I can hear you. So, did you hear the question?
Okay. Maybe repeat it again, please.
All right. So, on that book, you talk about it, and then you use it as the way to teach people about building trust in the as a team and stuff like that. So, teach us how a trip to Antarctica be able to become something that can help people to elevate trust and build trust.
Okay. Yes. Thank you. Well, my father was one of 3 Black people on the ship at a time when it's called Jim Crow, where we had segregation in the United States. And so Black communities were only working with Black communities and white communities only with white communities. And so they weren't living together. They were maybe working. Black people at the time, or African Americans, had only certain jobs that were given. You couldn't, if you wanted to be a rocket scientist, you would be a janitor. There's nothing wrong with being a janitor. It's just that if you have the skills to be a rocket scientist, you're a little frustrated. There was violence, making sure that people stayed in their place. So here we are then, my father, a Black man on a ship, in one of 3 Black people on with 60 men, and they had to learn how to get along. And there were people there. There were a few men that were not used to, didn't want to work with Black people. And so they were calling him names and making his job difficult. So what happened was the officers, the admiral and the captain, as an example, were very aware how well my father was doing, how well he was performing, how generous he was with the rest of the crew, and they acknowledged that. So they gave him awards, and they gave him the first opportunity to be the first Black person in the world to set foot on Antarctica. That was one of the things they granted him. So when they got to Antarctica, they allowed him to get off the ship first. He was the first man off the ship.
Wow.
And he had that honor, and then also had the honor of becoming the first Black person in the world.
Wow.
So I gained a lot of respect for leadership and how leadership can orchestrate safety and teamwork by how they do, what their actions are. So they didn't reprimand the people who weren't treating him well. They just helped him feel a part of the group and acknowledged him in front of everyone else.
Wow.
So it's really a different style. The other thing I learned from his diaries is that he talked about his personal feelings, and he talked a lot about how the crew was feeling, how the men were feeling. You know, our morale is high, or our morale is low, or we're not eating because the ship is pitching and rolling, and we can only eat sandwiches, and so he talked about the collective. And I thought, and that was just eye-opening for me, that someone would care about the whole team, even though they're just a worker. I mean, he was in the kitchen cutting potatoes and making beds.
Wow. And what did you feel when you read those notes from him? And what did you feel about your father, about the characteristic of a strong man he has, and that moved you on to the work to do? How did you feel?
Yeah, I was very moved. I just felt so happy that he had that kind of attitude. I felt inspired that he didn't, he wasn't petty. He didn't write in his diary, oh, so-and-so did this to me, or he wasn't a victim. So I felt very inspired and happy that this was, part of my legacy.
Wow. So that happened before you start a journey on helping companies, helping leaders to get better, or after?
Well, actually, what's interesting is that I was already working with organizations. In fact, going back again to the beginning of my career, I was working with nonprofits and schools, because I mentioned this after-school program. So I was very much engaged in the nonprofit world and had a disdain for corporations. And my father always wanted to have his own business. And so after he retired from IBM, he started his own company as a headhunter, recruiting, a recruiter, a technical career placement was the name. And he wanted me to be his vice president. And I kept saying, I don't know, I don't like business. I don't like corporations. I don't know anything about this. And he kept asking me. And finally, I said, okay. So I was working in his company and helping him build the business and recruiting engineers. And, I realized I liked technology. And so then I got hired at Honeywell from his company. So that was the beginning. So I went, kind of went into the corporate world kicking and screaming, and then realized that I did have a talent for it. And so that's how that happened. So all of that happened before. So he was a mentor, of course. And then when I started my own company, then, you know, he became ill, and so I didn't get the benefit of his wisdom for my company, but I definitely helped him, and he helped me get a handle on the corporate world.
Leilani, imagine if all the leaders is like the captain of that ship that your father was on, being able to bring the best out for the team members, being able to recognize the differences and honor the people with who they are, and imagine how the workplace is gonna be for the people, right? And I believe that because of that, it helps you to have the stronger will to help leaders to get better. And I note in here that you help leader and people to realize the holistic self-awareness so that they can bring out the right kind of leadership style inside of each of us, right? So share a little bit with us, you know, how can we gain more about our holistic self-awareness and how is that correlated to our leadership style?
Sure. Well, I realized that when people don't feel well, they don't do well.
Mm.
So I realized that even though it used to be that when you come into a corporation, your feelings on a coat hanger and put it in the closet and leave that, and then the rest, at the end of the day, you would get your feelings back. And I realized that, you know, that just isn't, that's not realistic. People don't leave their home. They don't leave their feelings. They don't leave their true self. It's always there. It's just buried in some cases, you know, in some cases. And so what I got inspired about is, well, what if the whole person, what if it was okay to say, oh, I had a bad day, or, you know, my mother is sick, or my child is sick, or, you know, I'm just not feeling motivated. What if it was okay to have some of that, bring some of that in the workplace, so that, and I think that the trend now is people do want to bring their whole self to work.
Yeah.
You know, we have, Google has, you know, yoga rooms and basketball courts and, you know, nap rooms, for example. And so corporations do now understand that we need to help the whole person. They have food, you know, free food everywhere, you know, I mean, all that stuff so that you can snack if you want. It's casual. So this idea that if we bring our whole self to work, then we can be more productive.
Wow.
We can be more authentic. We can form relationships. You think about a relationship on a ship, you definitely are, your whole life is there. Back to the ship, for example, and this was 1940 when they first landed on Antarctica. They were reading their mail over the radio. So just imagine somebody had a letter saying his wife wanted a divorce, and everybody in the room is listening.
Oh.
Or we just had a baby. You know, I mean, that just whatever it is, it's oh, your child, we haven't seen your child now, he's walking. So the idea that work and life is separate, it really isn't. And you can have this, you know, you can have people come together and honor their lives and their work. And for the most part, people are more productive.
Okay.
Not everyone. Some people want to keep their lives a little bit closer to their chest. But then you have your employees wanting to figure out who you are. And so they're spending time trying to figure it out. Whereas if you just shared something about yourself, they wouldn't have to guess.
Hold on to that one a little bit, okay? Because I noted here in the red color, two things, okay? One is, the next one is what if, the question you ask. And the first one is realize, all right? Since when you have that realization that it's benefiting for the people and for the organizations, the people can bring the whole self to work instead of keep their feeling at base?
Well, one of my first managers was an alcoholic.
Mm.
And her behavior was very erratic. We didn't know she was an alcoholic. We just knew that if she was in a bad mood, you know, we would kind of hide. And when she was in a good mood, we would have fun. But the ups and downs of the irregularity of her mood affected our productivity.
Mm.
So, you know, I realized that wasn't healthy. And that if she had had a more stable demeanor, that we would have been even more productive.
Mm.
So that was one of the first realizations. And about 5 years later, she wrote us all a letter telling us that she was an alcoholic, and she apologized. And this was part of the AA, one of the 12 steps.
Mm.
And that's when I realized that you can't hide.
Wow.
You can't hide what's happening in your whole life. It comes out somehow at work.
Do you remember what years that you came to that realization? And the reason I ask is like this. The whole notion of companies, corporations to ask people to be more freely to bring themselves to work and be themselves, show vulnerability, be authentic, truly happened during the pandemic. But that whole thing is not new, but the whole pushing is that it was the global pandemic, right? So I wanna know, when did you have that realization? Then you ask that what if question, because that is a very powerful question that change makers asking in order for them to create something significantly change for the environment, the things they want to see change in life. So tell us.
Oh, I see. So this was like the early 90s.
Wow. Wow.
But you know what? It wasn't, you're right. It was still hard. I mean, I think Google started doing this maybe 10 years later, 15 years later, maybe.
Uh-huh.
So,
Yeah.
so this was early on where, and I also, you know, you asked me about one of my failures, or, you know, I developed a program called Work-Life Balance, and I pitched it to an HR person in Hong Kong.
Oh.
And she said to me, "We don't care about work-life balance. we don't care about that at all." And I was like, "Oh, wow. Okay." And this was probably 2009.
Wow.
And she said, "We don't care about that."
Wow.
So it has been a journey.
It
has definitely been a journey.
See how it feels when now all of the works you've been thinking, creating, implementing, and introducing around the world like this now start to kick in and start delivering the design that you thought about it for years ago. If 1990 is almost like 30 something years already. How do you feel to see that movement starting to rolling?
Yeah, I mean, it's refreshing, and I'm grateful because I can show up as well. So it benefits me. It benefits my niece. So I think people can ask for a little bit more and feel better at work. One of your people that you interviewed, she said, I hate it when people don't like their jobs.
Yeah.
And there are jobs that are harder than others for sure. And yet, and I might even go back. You're making me think that when I was in college, I had a job in a factory. And this was something that my father kind of insisted that I do. And I didn't like it, and it was like 2 o'clock in the morning, and it was really, really hot, and it was just a very tough job. What I realized then is that what kept me going were the people in my department.
Wow.
That I loved the people that I worked with. And it was a horrible job, but we made it fun because of how we interacted. So that was another seed that was planted, that even if the job is hard and tough and unpleasant, that you can make it worthwhile because of the people. So, you know, these seeds of caring about people has definitely been throughout my life.
Wow, wow. And isn't that something that all HR professional, all leaders, you know, good leaders want to see at their workplace, right? They want to see their people with energy, with love, with care, with trust and stuff like that. But in reality, you know, not a lot of organization, not a lot of teams, not a lot of departments have that beauty. So what's wrong with us?
Well, you know, part of the history of this field, right, is military, the military complex, the industrial complex, where human beings are machines, human beings are, you know, cogs in a process, and that is the origin of corporations. So with the information age and with the service age, that, you know, we're changing that a bit. I think we still have the systems and processes from some of the old school ways, and that, you know, we need to catch up with how things are changing in some areas. But the systems and structures put into place have been there for a long time.
I think the old management has been there for long, so it's hard to change, right? And then when we progress to make good changing out there, then the technology comes with AI, with a lot of things also, starting to put the fear back onto the people again. I see lately that's a lot of worries all over the world about the job being reducing because of you know, artificial intelligence takes over their jobs and stuff. So how can we create that, you know, like harmony and trust and love for the people to bring the smile to work and bring the care for one another to work again, Leilani?
Yeah, you know, I have to first, I have to acknowledge what we're living through right now in the United States. And that's a crisis in leadership, in my estimation, and that we are kind of going backward. We are going backwards for you know, using the Machiavellian principles of you're mean, what's the word? You aren't caring about people. You're caring about the task that needs to be done no matter what. You're going to destroy. You're going to be competitive. The Machiavellian it's not a feel-good principle. So we are going backwards in our political structures, and I'm sure that in some corporations, they might be relieved. They can go back to treating people certain ways. With that said, I also am aware that even an organization like the military, like the Navy, they have adopted these principles of leadership and asking people what they think and having all voices in the room and having people decide, make decisions closer to their work. I mean, these things are happening even in the Navy. So I wonder if we're going to push back in some ways with some of the political pieces, because many of us are used to this idea that we do get a say. We do have a say. We do have a voice. We can make decisions. We do want to be happy. I think that momentum is still building as we go along. So you asked me, you know, how do we do this? How do we keep this momentum? And it comes back to courage. It comes back to risk taking. It comes back to understanding who you are, and it comes back to, you know, what gives you stress and what helps you be healthy. And staying focused on those things. No matter what is happening with the outside world, we need to continue this journey of making sure that we can be our best selves and we can bring our best selves, and insisting on that as structures are crumbling around us.
Yeah, I think with the with all the textbook, with all the material, with all of the case studies, and recently during the pandemic, I think leaders also have different views about maybe a new way of leadership, a new way of management, a new way of leading their organizations that make people happy, can leave their legacy, even go further to the next level. And with that in mind, I believe that human we want to do well for people. We want to do well for the people around us, right? We want to be remembered as a person that be helpful and do anything good for other people. So there will be leaders out there that relentlessly doing that, and thanks to practitioner like you out there to continue to change one leader at a time, one manager at a time, one organization at a time, and those small little one when they add up, that will change. They make a lot of change. Leilani, okay. And I have two last questions for this conversation. All right, because you mentioned one word in this earlier, is the word thinking. You said that I make you think. Okay, and my wife and I, we've been on the quest to help people to improve their ability to think, simply because we see that there's so many noises out there, and our thinking is not clear anymore. It's hard to make a clear head to think, right? And if we don't use our brain to think, it's gonna get rotted. So it's best to it is best to use the gift that God gave us, the brain. And let's gain back our ability to think by simply asking whoever joining our program like this, and ask how have they be growing their ability to think, so people can pick up something to practice and make improvement upon. So that would be wonderful. So Leilani, the question for you is, how have you been growing and expanding your ability to think over the years?
Well, I love the question, and I did listen to your video last night, the whole thing. So it was very interesting to hear all the responses. For me, it's embodiment. For me, Western culture in particular reveres the head, the brain. We have brain cells throughout our whole body. We have a lot of intelligence in our stomach. We obviously have heart intelligence. So for me, thinking has to do with integrating all the parts of myself, all the parts of my body, literally, moving. You know, having meetings where I'm hiking, where I'm standing, where I'm embodying what it is that I'm interested in. You know, I help people understand, if you're stuck, you know, make a shape with your body. Your body has the intelligence to unlock when your brain gets stuck. So I've been developing movement practices for many years, and I grew up as a dancer. My mother was doing the hula when I was in utero. So I have a large amount of kinesthetic intelligence, and I want to help people understand how much more intelligence they have when they integrate in the body.
Wow, so it's the whole body intelligence. So instead of just using the brain, right? Wow, wonderful. All right. The last question, it might be a little bit emotional, but I make a promise to my speaking coach to ask questions, bizarre question or any kind of question that can help to know more or bring the emotion to our speakers of the show. Okay, so if you can carry the book with you now into over time and sit next to your father, you know, and have a word about what the book had taught you about his journey, about your journey, and about the things you want to contribute into his to this life because of, you know, his diary in the book. So what message would you tell him
that I learned, what message to tell him that I learned.
Mm. Whatever the message you want to, you know, because you know you have the book and yourself being there with him. So
yes, well, I have to say a little preface for this is that my father has been involved in this process the whole time.
Mm.
And so just to share with you that when he was dying, I asked him, well, would you come back? Or, you know, would you give me a sign if you learned something on the other side? And he said, no, I'm not going to do that. My parents didn't do that. No. I said, okay. And then every step of the way, he has shown up.
Oh.
So he actually was a mystic. And I never knew that he was a mystic. So I am a mystic. And I learned that I was a mystic based on this 20-year journey. And when I say mystic, what I mean is that it's like he left breadcrumbs. Every time I got frustrated, there was another little breadcrumb. There was a person who showed up and told me something. There was a picture I discovered. There, you know, and it hasn't stopped.
Mm.
So my message is, oh, you said you weren't a mystic, ha ha. And the message out of that is let life lead you. Mm. That I understood from from researching his life that he didn't know what to do. Mm. You know, he left the Navy, went back, left the Navy, went back. He just didn't have a clear picture, and he let life lead him. Let life lead. Well, you know what I mean. He let life lead him.
Yes.
Which gave me the permission to let life lead me.
Wow. Isn't it beautiful that you go into the unknown and start as a learner again and again and again and again, to keep yourself young, to keep your mind young, to learn and relearn and unlearn everything around you, right? And maybe on that very same path, you'll be able to see things differently the second time. You see different things. The third time, you see different things. The fourth time, and that's, I see, it's so beautiful. Years ago, I didn't see it's beautiful. Years ago, I saw it's very frustrating. But now I feel everything in life happened for a reason. Everything happened for us to explore, to learn. And it's like us, you know, we're from, you know, 10,000 miles away, and you're snowed in the morning. I'm having a very hot day today. But, you know, we are here having this beautiful conversation. Never know in our life that, you know, it's happened, right? So it's here to teach us. It's here to give us the opportunity to make the better at what we do. And Leilani, thanks a lot for showing up. Be vulnerable in your journey, but always bring the best out of it, okay?
Thank you. Thank you. It's a wonderful conversation. Yeah, really delightful.
Thank you very much. I really look forward to see you in the summer. And let me know, again, I said earlier, let me know anything that we could have in preparation to support you when you get here, okay?
Okay, sounds great.
Alrighty. Okay, talk to you later, Leilani.
Okay.
You have a wonderful day.
You too.
It's fun.